Well, Disney fans, Frozen 2 is out and it is simply magical. We finally get to catch up with Anna, Elsa, Olaf, and the eternally doomed citizens of Arendelle. While this movie is pretty much universally beloved, it did anger some fans out there. You see, the first Frozen lit up the imaginations of fans who were desperate to see it cross over with other Disney classics. These brilliant Disney experts analyzed every possible connection between it and other films, and they came up with some truly inspired options. Too bad that the sequel pretty much proved all of them wrong. So let's jump into the Frozen sequel and see which connections it destroys and which might still be left. Let's start with a recap. The sequel starts not too long after the first Frozen. Our gang is happily celebrating a newfound peace in Arendelle after the horrible events of the first film. Then we are thrust right back into the action as Elsa starts hearing a strange voice. She rushes out to meet it and accidentally awakens the four spirits of the forest: air, earth, fire, and water. You know, the basics. These spirits rush everyone out of Arendelle, and our heroes journey into the forest to figure out what exactly is going on. Once they get through the magical mist wall, they are attacked by the spirits before meeting up with two tribes of people. The Northuldra are the indigenous tribe of the forest who are still in conflict with the trapped Arendelle army. On top of that, Anna and Elsa discover that their mother was a member of the former tribe and that she saved their father. Everyone makes nice before Anna and Elsa decide to get to the bottom of the mystery of the forest. They journey towards Elsa's mysterious voice, where they find a big surprise: the boat that their parents perished in during the first film. They discover that the two of them were searching for where Elsa's powers came from when their ship sank. Elsa then sends Anna and Olaf away so that she can finish the journey alone. She wrestles with a cool water stallion before reaching the mystical Ahtohallan. There she learns the final truth: that their grandfather built a dam to weaken Northuldra before attacking them. This angered the forest and caused the spirits to separate it from Arendelle. Elsa slowly freezes, but manages to send Anna the message. Then Anna tricks a group of rock giants into destroying the dam for her, which saves Elsa and both tribes. Elsa then relinquishes her throne to Anna. Kristoff asks her to marry him, and they all live happily ever after once again. It's a fairly dark and complicated tale for a Disney movie that doesn't really connect with some of the larger theories Frozen fans had. One of the biggest hopes for Frozen 2 was that it would somehow establish a Disney princess cinematic universe. Fans hoped that it would sort of act as Iron Man from the MCU and establish links to other Disney movies for a possible crossover. Most of this was seeded in last year's Disney animated adventure. Ralph Breaks the Internet famously featured the scene where all of the Disney princesses united for the first time. Honestly, it was probably the best part of the entire film. This has led to a ton of speculation that Disney is making a princesses film. This would probably be the biggest event in Disney animated history. Can you imagine how incredible an Avengers-style princess movie would be? The day they announce it will probably be when every window on Earth shatters due to the squeals from little girls around the globe. Unfortunately, Frozen 2 didn't have any interest in referencing any other Disney movies. In fact, it walked back several references that the first film made, even retconning a few popular fan theories that were endorsed by the filmmakers. The biggest connection fans like to make between Frozen and the potential Disneyverse had to do with Tarzan. Many fans noticed some distinct parallels between the beginnings of both movies. Both feature a horrible shipwreck. While it is depicted as the end of Anna and Elsa's parents, the shipwreck in Tarzan features his parents getting marooned. Tarzan's parents escape into the jungle, where they are viciously attacked by Sabor. He is then raised by gorillas. Many fans think that Tarzan, Anna, and Elsa have the same parents, that the king and queen from Frozen were marooned in the jungle where they had little Prince Tarzan. It's even more convincing when you notice that the Frozen sisters' dad and Tarzan's dad both rock epic mustaches. I mean, how many people in the world can really grow a mustache that would make even Sam Elliott jealous? That's just statistically improbable. Unfortunately, Frozen 2 froze this theory and then shattered it into a million pieces. When Anna and Elsa find their parents' ship, it is very very clearly not in the jungle. If that weren't enough, Elsa uses the memory of water to determine that their parents did, in fact, drown in each other's arms. Brutal. Though you really have to wonder how reliable the whole memory of water concept really is. I may not have gotten an A in chemistry, but I'm pretty sure they made that up. The other big Disney movie that fans like to connect to Frozen is the one that started the Disney Renaissance. The Little Mermaid is one of the best princess musicals to ever grace the big screen, so it's no surprise the fans want to link it to the biggest princess musical of the 21st century. Thus far, that is. Just wait until the inevitable Princess Leia animated musical about growing up on Alderaan, though that one will probably have a pretty explosive ending. This theory also links up with that big shipwreck. Fans think that Ariel was singing in their parents' sunken ship during her big Part of Your World number. If you think that's ridiculous, then you just don't know Disney fans. They even consulted maps to determine the direct journey of the Arendelle royalty ship and where it could have sunk. There are experts who studied the Titanic with less passion than these fans did. It's too bad that it was all pretty much for nothing. Let's just freeze things before we continue. If you like this video, be sure to let us know by liking, subscribing, and turning on notifications for more. It's the YouTube equivalent of warm hugs. Also, make sure you check out the Frozen videos on our sister channel, Screen Rant. If Frozen has taught us anything, it's that sisters have got to stick together. Moana featured lots of large anthropomorphic elemental gods. The trailers for Frozen 2 featured giant creatures that were stylistically similar to Te Kā and Te Fiti. Some fans hoped that the creators behind these movies might combine the lore of the two into one big magic system. If there were elemental gods of a forest, why couldn't they have been related to the gods of the ocean? Do gods have cousins? It might sound like a bit of a crazy stretch, but what better team up would there be than Elsa and Moana trying to save the world? Also, Maui and Olaf would get such a kick out of each other. What do you say, Disney? Ready to buy my screenplay yet? It's called Moana and the Frozen Ocean, and it's 6,000 pages long. I'll be waiting by the phone. While fans love to speculate about Frozen being connected to other Disney movies, there was one deliberately connected to it. Eagle-eyed fans caught a glimpse of two special characters in the crowd of Elsa's coronation, Flynn Rider and Rapunzel. That being said, the sequel forgot about this connection entirely. Fans were hoping for more connection to Tangled, maybe even another cameo. Instead, the film ignored its predecessor entirely. Apparently, Flynn and Rapunzel scored an invite to Elsa's coronation, but not to Anna's. That's gonna be awkward the next time they see each other. Now, no one really thought that Frozen 2 and the Disney movie Pocahontas would literally be connected. They were hoping that the new movie would reference the 90s classic, sure, and the two do have very similar plots and concepts. It's a shame that the filmmakers didn't drive into it more. Frozen 2's conflict between the people of Arendelle and North Aldra is very similar to the conflict in Pocahontas. The Native American tribe frequently clashes with the American Pilgrims. Through the union of Pocahontas and John Smith, though, they are able to establish an uneasy peace. Unfortunately, Frozen 2 doesn't really commit as much to the indigenous people of the Enchanted Forest. By the middle of the movie, they're basically written out. Sure, we're introduced to Ryder and Honeymaren, but neither are given much to do. And sorry folks, Honeymaren isn't Elsa's girlfriend after all. Probably more because she couldn't get over the name Honeymaren more than anything else. Can't really blame her. The other thing that fans were hoping for from Frozen 2 was that it might establish new characters for spin-offs. The hope here was that perhaps new magical characters might be introduced for future musicals. Fans hoped that Honeymaren, Ryder, and the mysterious girl in the leaves might be interesting enough for new franchises. This was actually a pretty solid assumption. Frozen is basically a money factory at this point. Seriously, go to any department store and you'll see more Frozen merchandise than you could possibly buy. The company that's made over 20 Marvel films and plans on making Star Wars movies forever would obviously love more stuff to monetize. Weirdly enough, this is the only property Disney seems uninterested in building more franchises off of. Not only do the new characters get hardly any screen time at all, seriously, not even a song, but they are pretty boring. It doesn't even seem like Frozen 2 is set up for a sequel of itself. The film wraps the story up pretty tight, even seeming to confirm that there will be no conflicts in the future. At this point, not only does a Frozen spin-off seem unlikely, but Frozen 3 as well. Though the movie did make a ton of money, so who really knows? No one thought Toy Story 3 was going to get a sequel either. While Frozen 2 lacked any big connections to other Disney properties, it did open a few doors. Dedicated animation fans were quick to point out that the magic system in Frozen 2 is very reminiscent of Avatar. That's the Last Airbender Avatar, not Blue Aliens Avatar. The classic series also revolved around magic concerning people and creatures manipulating earth, air, wind, and fire. It seems strange that a popular series would make such an obvious reference to one of the most revered animated series ever. Obviously, the animators are familiar with this property, so it's possible that this was an Easter egg? It's unlikely that there's any real connection, especially with an Avatar Netflix series on the way, but we can speculate. It would be awesome to see a sequel where Elsa expands her powers even more. She could use her time in the forest to master the other 3 elements and become the Avatar herself. Like Elsa, Aang was also able to commune with the spirits. It's not the most out there theory if you really think about it. That would actually be the theory that Elsa is going to end up with Jack Frost from Rise of the Guardians. There's no way that he's her type. While Frozen 2 slammed the brakes on quite a few fan theories, there are still possibilities. The most popular shared universe fan theory out there is the Pixar theory. Part of this theory involves the witch from Brave traveling between Pixar universes. If this is somehow true, which some fans hope Onward will confirm, other Disney movies could be brought in. This could mean that we might see a crossover that shares more with Crisis on Infinite Earths than the Avengers. A unification of all Disney characters from Elsa to Mickey to Darkwing Duck would be about the most epic thing ever. It would potentially top the portal scene from Endgame, maybe. The other possibility is that these films might cross over inside the Wreck-It Ralph world. In that universe, we're introduced to alternate versions of Anna and Elsa. These versions are basically personifications of internet searches. They could unite with other princesses, various Disney characters, and Baby Groot to save the universe. You're a liar if you say you don't want to see Elsa, Mulan, Ariel, Pocahontas, and Jasmine fight together. There is one more pretty obvious connection between Frozen 2 and a famous fictional property. When the Northuldra people lock hands and make a spiral, it's very similar to a different spiral-obsessed culture. That's right, the Northuldra are definitely White Walkers from Game of Thrones in disguise. I mean, what children's movie franchise doesn't want to cross over with an R-rated fantasy series? The Night King is obviously going to be Elsa's arch-nemesis. I mean, it couldn't go any worse than it did in Game of Thrones Season 8. Maybe Disney would do a better job with him. Also, who wouldn't love a dance number between Olaf and a bunch of ice zombies? That scene just writes itself, honestly. Seriously, it wrote itself into my 6,000-page script. There you have it, all the Frozen connections that were cut off in the sequel. Do you have any Frozen 2 Disney theories? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more from The Binger.